What if real power doesn't shout? What if strength isn't about being seen or heard, but about a silent force inside that no one can touch? In a world addicted to likes, followers, and constant noise, this quiet power is rare and unstoppable. Today, we're diving deep into 12 Stoic principles that unlock that hidden strength. Ready to stop performing and start becoming? Stay with me, because what comes next will change everything you thought you knew about discipline and inner power. If you caught that last moment, you felt it. This idea that true power isn't loud or flashy. It's quiet. It doesn't scream for attention. It doesn't need validation. And that's where we start. The first principle on this path to real, unshakable strength is simple, yet profound. Let silence be your foundation. Now, I know what you're thinking. Silence? In a world that never stops talking, where every second is filled with noise, notifications, chatter, ads, opinions, how can silence be the foundation of power? It feels almost rebellious to choose silence, doesn't it? Like stepping off the treadmill everyone else is running on. But that's exactly why silence is so essential. See, when we fill every space with noise, whether it's social media updates, constant commentary, or even our own busy thoughts, we're actually running away from something. We're running from discomfort, from the stillness that forces us to face ourselves. And in that noise, our focus scatters. Our energy drains. Our true power diminishes. The Stoics understood this deeply. For them, silence wasn't absence. It wasn't emptiness. It was a deliberate choice, a grounding force. It was where roots take hold, deep, unseen, and strong. It was where they built their lives, stone by stone, principle by principle, without the need for applause or spotlight. Think about a tree. It doesn't grow by shouting to the world every time it gets a new leaf. Its growth happens quietly, beneath the surface, out of sight. And the stronger the roots, the more storm-resistant the tree becomes. That's what silence does for you. It lets your inner strength take root. When you choose silence, you're choosing intention. You're saying, I don't need to explain my journey. I need to live it. Instead of broadcasting your plans, you're busy building them. Instead of talking about your goals, you're quietly chasing them. Instead of seeking approval, you're cultivating clarity. Now, this doesn't mean you become withdrawn or emotionless. It means you remove the distractions that dilute your focus. It means you create space for your values and your purpose to grow undisturbed. It means you become present with yourself, not performing, but being. Here's a real-life moment to bring this home. Imagine waking up in the morning, and instead of scrolling through your phone, you sit in silence for 5 minutes, just breathing, feeling grounded, planning your day in your mind without a single word or distraction. That's your foundation being laid. Or think about working on a skill, writing, learning, training, without posting about it, without waiting for praise or validation. You're showing up for yourself first, not for anyone else. That's the power of silence. But silence isn't just external. It's also internal. It's quieting the endless chatter in your mind, the fears, doubts, comparisons, and judgments that steal your peace. When you master that internal silence, you become untouchable by chaos and distraction. You become grounded. And here's the thing, silence can be uncomfortable. It exposes what we often avoid. It reveals gaps, fears, and uncertainty. But discomfort is the gateway to growth. The Stoics embraced it because they knew that through silence and stillness, you forge clarity and resilience. So, I want you to ask yourself, am I building my foundation in silence, or am I just talking about what I want to become? Because the difference is everything. A house built with noisy chatter collapses, but a house built in silence, brick by brick, day by day, stands firm through any storm. This first principle invites you to slow down, to protect your energy, and to let your work mature away from the spotlight. Don't rush to explain, don't rush to perform. Let your actions and your inner strength grow quietly. This is how power becomes undeniable, not because you prove it, but because it simply is. And as you build this foundation, you prepare yourself for the next step, learning to speak less and do more. Because silence sets the stage for action, not talk. It's about moving with purpose, not noise. About letting your work speak so loudly that words become unnecessary. So stay with me, because we're just getting started. Your silent power is ready to rise. If you've embraced the first step, letting silence be your foundation, then you're already ahead of most people. You've begun to understand that true power grows quietly, deeply, away from the noise. But silence alone isn't enough. It's the stillness before movement. Now it's time for principle 2, speak less, do more. This might sound straightforward, but it's one of the hardest principles to master, especially today. We live in an age obsessed with sharing, broadcasting, and performing. We announce our goals before we start working on them. We talk about change, but delay taking the first step. We seek validation through words, likes, and comments, confusing talk for progress. But here's the truth. The more you speak about what you plan to do, the less energy you have left to actually do it. Your brain rewards you when you talk about your intentions. That moment of sharing feels like a win. It tricks you into thinking you've already moved forward. You get a hit of dopamine just from the anticipation, from the approval you might receive. But the actual work? It often gets postponed, pushed aside. The Stoics knew this well. They weren't interested in loud promises or empty declarations. They believed in quiet, consistent action, the kind that doesn't need an audience or applause. Epictetus reminded us, if you want to be a philosopher, act like one. Don't just talk about it. That means the path to mastery is paved not with words, but with results. It's built by showing up when no one's watching, doing the small, often invisible things day after day. It's in the decision to keep going when motivation is low and the spotlight is off. Think about the difference between two people. One talks endlessly about starting a business, posting updates, sharing plans on social media, but never takes the concrete steps needed to build it. The other quietly researches, builds, and experiments in the background, steadily making progress without fanfare. Who do you think will last? Who do you think will truly succeed? Momentum thrives in action, not chatter. It grows through consistent effort, not through sharing intentions prematurely. When you speak less and do more, you protect your energy and focus. You don't waste your drive on convincing others or seeking their approval. You direct that energy inward toward building. But this principle isn't about shutting down communication or hiding your journey forever. It's about timing and balance. It's about knowing when to move quietly and when to share your progress meaningfully. Because here's the thing, sharing too soon can backfire. It makes you vulnerable to doubt, criticism, and distraction. It exposes your ambitions before they're ready to stand on their own. It can lead to premature satisfaction, a false sense of accomplishment that saps your hunger. So, learn to guard your energy. Speak intentionally, but act relentlessly. Let your work become your voice. Let your results be the undeniable proof of your commitment. When you do this, something remarkable happens. You become undeniable. People start noticing your presence, not because you've shouted for attention, but because your impact speaks for itself. You carry a quiet confidence that doesn't need validation. You no longer have to explain or justify your efforts because your consistency has built trust, first in yourself, then in others. Now, I want you to reflect for a moment. Where in your life are you leaking energy through talk? Where have you spent more time explaining your goals than working on them? What would happen if you simply closed your mouth and got to work? Because the truth is, the weight of your potential isn't measured by how much you tell the world. It's measured by how much you build in silence. This principle connects directly to what we talked about earlier. Silence is your foundation, and now action is your structure. Without consistent doing, silence remains empty. Without silence, doing becomes chaotic. And that leads us perfectly into principle 3. Don't share the seed, water it. It's the idea that every new goal, every idea, every dream starts fragile, like a seed that needs care, protection, and time before it can grow. If you expose it too early, if you announce it before it's ready, you risk damaging its potential. But if you nurture it quietly, with focused effort and patience, it can take root deeply and grow strong. So stay with me, because the journey is just beginning. Speak less, do more. Protect your energy. Build your momentum quietly. And next, we'll explore how to care for your goals like a gardener tending to seeds, knowing when to nurture, when to protect, and when to let growth happen unseen. We've talked about the power of silence as your foundation, and how speaking less and doing more fuels real progress. Now let's dive deeper into a critical step on this path. Don't share the seed, water it. Think about the beginning of any great achievement. The spark of an idea, the seed of a dream. It's fragile, delicate, and full of potential, but it's also vulnerable. Most people make the mistake of exposing that seed too soon. They want to announce their ambitions, to gain approval, to feel accountable to others. They share their plans, their goals, their visions before they've given those things the time and space to take root. But here's the truth. When you share the seed too early, you risk killing it. How? Because that initial vulnerability demands protection and quiet nurturing. Announcing your goals prematurely invites judgment, distraction, and external noise. It tempts you to seek instant validation instead of cultivating real growth. Imagine a gardener planting a seed. If they dig it up every day to check its progress or to show it off to others, what happens? The seed struggles to survive. It never establishes roots deep enough to withstand the storms. Your goals and dreams are the same. They don't need an audience before they're ready. They need care, patience, and deliberate attention. This principle calls you to honor the natural rhythm of growth. Growth that happens in silence, away from the noise of social media, away from the pressure of others' opinions, away from the need to prove yourself. Because real strength grows underground, beneath the surface, where no one else can see. The roots form quietly, steadily, before the branches reach the sky. Think about your own life. How many times have you announced a goal, only to lose motivation when the initial excitement faded? How often has the need for external validation replaced your internal drive? This is the subtle trap of sharing the seed too soon. You get a rush from the attention, a dopamine hit from likes and comments, and suddenly you feel like progress is happening. But the real work, the slow, consistent effort, is often pushed aside. The Stoics understood this deeply. They protected their intentions. They nurtured their ambitions in solitude because they knew that premature exposure weakens commitment. Epictetus, who taught discipline through challenge and solitude, lived this truth. He trained his mind in poverty, in silence, without the need for applause or recognition. His discipline wasn't performative. It was rooted in steady, unseen work. So how do you apply this principle in your life? First, resist the urge to announce every goal, every new project, or every idea before you've laid a solid foundation. Protect the early stages of your growth. Don't broadcast before you're ready to build. Second, focus on watering the seed daily. Water it with consistent action, no matter how small, whether it's writing one paragraph, making one call, practicing one skill, or preparing quietly behind the scenes. Remember, these small acts compound. They build depth and strength that will one day become visible to the world, but only when the time is right. Third, trust the process. Growth takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. There's no rush to show off progress or gain external approval. Instead, honor the journey by embracing patience, resilience, and persistence. It's okay to keep your ambitions private. It's okay to build without an audience. In fact, it's often necessary. One day, your results will speak so loudly, no announcement will be needed. Your growth will be undeniable. But until then, protect your seed like the rare, valuable potential it is. Ask yourself, what goals or dreams am I exposing too early? How can I protect and nurture them in silence? Am I watering my seeds daily with consistent action, or am I waiting for external validation to feel motivated? This principle doesn't mean you isolate yourself or never share your journey. It's about timing and intention. There will be moments to share your story, to celebrate milestones, to inspire others. But those moments come after the roots have grown deep and strong. For now, focus on the quiet work, the unseen discipline, the consistent watering. Because when you do, you're setting the stage for sustainable growth, growth that won't be knocked down by critics, distractions, or doubt. This principle ties directly back to speaking less and doing more. It's the practice of turning inward, focusing your energy where it truly matters, and resisting the temptation of premature exposure. And it naturally leads us to our next step, resisting the dopamine of validation. Because once you protect and nurture your seed in silence, the next challenge is to avoid the trap of seeking external applause. To find fulfillment not in likes or praise, but in the pure satisfaction of growth itself. So stay with me. Keep your seed protected, water it diligently, and get ready to build a discipline rooted in inner strength, not outer validation. Your journey isn't about performing for the world. It's about becoming the person you're meant to be, step by quiet step. We've learned how crucial it is to protect and nurture your goals in silence, to water the seed without prematurely sharing it. But once you start making progress, a new challenge quietly emerges, the dopamine of validation. What is that? It's the addictive rush we get from external approval, the likes, the comments, the praise, the fleeting moments when someone notices us, acknowledges us, applauds us. It feels good. It feels powerful. It makes us think, yes, I'm on the right path. But here's the hidden danger. Validation is a double-edged sword. On the surface, it motivates. But over time, it can poison your discipline, silently eroding your internal drive and replacing it with a hunger for external approval. When you rely too heavily on validation, your motivation stops being about your values, your vision, your purpose. It becomes about the reaction of others. Your work shifts from being an expression of who you are to a performance aimed at who you want others to see. And that shift is dangerous, because when your discipline is rooted in applause, you lose control. You become dependent on the crowd's attention, on their fleeting opinions. You measure your success by likes, shares, comments, and when they dry up, so does your momentum. The Stoics warned us about this trap long before social media existed. They knew that seeking praise weakens your soul's foundation. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself constantly that fame and applause are empty noise. What truly matters is doing the right thing, whether anyone sees it or not. Think about it. Have you ever felt amazing after someone complimented your work, only to find that when the compliments stopped, your drive evaporated? That's because your discipline was never truly yours. It was borrowed from the energy of external approval. The Stoics taught us to find joy and satisfaction in the work itself, detached from outcome or recognition. They lived by the principle, the process is the prize. When your motivation is tied to praise, you are vulnerable. You become a prisoner to the mood of the crowd. One day they cheer. The next they look away. But when your motivation is rooted in your own values, in your own commitment, you become unshakable. You keep going, no matter who's watching or applauding. So how do you resist this dopamine trap? Start by recognizing your patterns. Notice when you're sharing something not to serve or inspire, but to seek validation. Notice when your energy dips because the likes aren't coming in fast enough. Notice when you feel pressure to perform, not because you want growth, but because you want approval. Then consciously detach. Thank the applause when it comes, but don't lean on it. Remind yourself that your worth isn't measured by anyone else's eyes. Find satisfaction in the silent progress you make each day. Find pride in showing up when no one sees. Practice doing the work for the pure love of the craft. Let your discipline be intrinsic, not extrinsic. This is hard, especially in a world designed to feed your craving for attention. Social media, instant feedback, public metrics, they are engineered to keep you hooked on validation. But you can reclaim your mind by rewiring your reward system. Start small. Celebrate your efforts privately. Journal your wins quietly. Reflect on your growth internally. Replace the need for likes with the satisfaction of mastery. Replace the hunger for applause with the peace of alignment. As you do this, you'll notice something powerful. Discipline becomes lighter, not because it's easy, but because it becomes its own reward. You don't rely on fleeting highs. You live in steady strength. Now, resisting the dopamine of validation doesn't mean isolating yourself or rejecting all connection. It means grounding your motivation within, so praise becomes a bonus, not the fuel. This shift gives you freedom. Freedom from the noise. Freedom to be consistent, patient, and authentic. Freedom to grow without performance anxiety. Because real power isn't loud or flashy. It's quiet, steady, and relentless. This principle flows naturally from the previous one, protecting your seed in silence. Once you guard your growth from premature exposure, you must also guard your mind from addiction to applause. Both are about protecting the sacred energy of becoming. And as you learn to resist external dopamine, you prepare yourself for the next vital step, letting your work, not your words, be your voice. That's the principle we'll explore next. Because when you stop performing for the crowd and start embodying your purpose, your results speak louder than any announcement. Your presence carries weight. Your impact becomes undeniable. So take this moment now. Ask yourself, am I doing this because it's right or because I want to be seen? Could I keep going if no one ever noticed or applauded? How often do I interrupt my own process to seek validation? What would it mean to love the work itself, not the reaction it gets? The answers to these questions will reveal where your discipline truly lives. And it's inside you, quiet, persistent, and free. Keep resisting the dopamine trap. Keep watering your seed in silence. Because the power you're building isn't for show, it's for life. In the last section, we uncovered the silent trap of chasing validation, that addictive rush from likes, comments, and applause. We saw how leaning on external approval quietly steals your inner drive, making discipline dependent on others' attention. Now it's time to go deeper. Principle 5, your work is not performance. This may sound straightforward, but it's one of the hardest truths to live by in a world obsessed with appearance and approval. When you treat your work like a performance, you step onto a stage. Every action becomes a carefully crafted scene designed to impress, to convince, to win applause. You perform because you want to be seen, liked, admired. You measure success by the reaction you get, not by the work itself. And this performance mindset is dangerous. Why? Because it shifts your energy from creating to acting. Instead of investing fully in the process, you focus on how it looks. You might spend more time curating the image than building the substance. You might worry about who's watching rather than what you're building. You might hesitate to take risks, afraid of mistakes breaking the illusion. In this way, performance limits growth. It traps you in a feedback loop of validation and insecurity. You chase the spotlight, but it never fully satisfies. It becomes exhausting, mentally, emotionally, creatively. The Stoics understood this better than most. Marcus Aurelius, despite being emperor, warned himself again and again not to fall into the trap of performance. He reminded himself that virtue, discipline, and character aren't costumes to wear on stage. They are the foundation of who you are, consistent and unshakable, whether the world watches or not. The moment your work becomes a performance, you lose the grounding that allows for real transformation. You lose your authenticity. You trade substance for image. This is why so many people burn out chasing success on social media, in business, or even in their personal lives. They aren't building, they're performing. And performance is unsustainable. True discipline is different. It's about showing up when no one is watching. It's about doing the hard, often invisible work every single day. It's about honoring your commitments, not to impress others, but because you respect yourself. When your work is rooted in integrity, you build something that lasts. You build resilience. You build trust, first with yourself, then with others. You build a legacy defined by depth, not by applause. So how do you shift from performance to authenticity? First, recognize when you're performing. Ask yourself, am I doing this to be seen or to grow? Am I acting to get approval or acting because it's aligned with my values? Am I focused on the outcome or the process? Then, choose to be vulnerable. Be willing to show up imperfectly. Be willing to take risks without guaranteed praise. Be willing to work in silence, to sweat in solitude. This is where real power lives, in the unseen, unglamorous effort. And here's the paradox. The less you perform, the more undeniable your work becomes. When you stop talking and start building, your results speak. When you stop explaining and start executing, your presence carries weight. When you stop chasing applause and start embodying your purpose, your influence grows quietly but surely. Imagine two creators. One constantly posts teasers, talks about their project, and seeks followers. The other spends hours daily building in silence, rarely posting updates. Over time, whose work will stand stronger? Whose impact will be more profound? The answer is clear. The Stoic path is inward-facing, not performance-driven. It's about becoming solid, not just visible. It's about living in alignment, not in spotlight. But make no mistake, this is not about hiding. It's about anchoring your identity in the work itself. It's about creating with intention and letting the results be your voice. This principle is a natural extension of resisting the dopamine of validation. Once you no longer rely on applause, you free yourself to build authentically. And that freedom is the foundation for the next step, anchoring your discipline in solitude. Because to do your best work, not performance but real transformational work, you need the space to focus, reflect, and grow without distraction. In our next principle, we'll explore how solitude isn't loneliness or isolation, but the essential container for true discipline. So take this moment now to reflect. Are you performing, or are you building? Are you acting to be seen, or acting to become? Your work is your legacy. Make it one of substance, not show. Remember, the greatest creators, leaders, and change-makers don't just perform. They embody. They build silently. They rise steadily. And their work stands long after the applause fades. In the last principle, we explored how your work is not a performance meant for an audience, but a quiet, consistent embodiment of your true self. We saw how the loudest achievements come from silent, steady building, not from the spotlight or applause. Now let's dive deeper into what makes that steady building possible. Principle 6. Anchor your discipline in solitude. This idea might feel counterintuitive at first, especially in our hyper-connected, always-on world. We are wired to crave social interaction, instant feedback, and constant stimulation. Phones buzz, notifications flash, the world is a noisy, demanding place. But true discipline, the kind that lasts, doesn't thrive in noise. It grows in solitude. Solitude is not loneliness. It's not isolation or withdrawal. It's the sacred space where you confront your true self, free from distraction, performance, or external pressure. It's where you build a fortress of inner strength, where you align your actions with your deepest values. Think about those moments before the sun rises, when the world is still asleep. No distractions, no opinions, just you, your thoughts, and the work you promised yourself. It's in those silent hours that your discipline is truly tested and forged. When no one is watching, will you still keep your word? When the comfort of distraction beckons, will you still choose presence? When doubts creep in, will you face them with resolve or retreat into excuses? These questions matter because in solitude, there's no one to blame but yourself. No external pressure to keep you accountable. Just your own commitment. And that commitment is the foundation of unshakable discipline. The Stoics, especially Epictetus, understood this deeply. Epictetus lived as a slave, stripped of comfort and social standing. Yet, in solitude and hardship, he forged a mind and spirit stronger than kings. He taught that discipline is self-generated, not borrowed from alarms, schedules, or praise. These external supports can help, but only as scaffolding. The real structure must come from within. Without solitude, you build on shaky ground. You become dependent on motivation, on others' approval, on the noise outside. But in solitude, you build stability. You train yourself to move forward regardless of circumstance. To keep showing up even when it's hard, unseen, and uncelebrated. This is the discipline that no one can take away. Solitude reveals your true level of commitment. It exposes excuses, distractions, and fears that thrive only in the crowd. In the quiet, you can no longer hide behind busyness or social performance. You face yourself, sometimes uncomfortable, sometimes challenging. But that discomfort is necessary. It's the crucible of growth. When you embrace solitude, you learn to command your mind and emotions. You develop patience, focus, and clarity. You turn mental chaos into order, distractions into discipline. Think about your own life. When was the last time you truly disconnected? No phone, no social media, no background noise. Just silence and space. Maybe it felt strange, maybe even lonely. But what if that space is where your greatest power lies? Imagine starting your day with 10 minutes of stillness. No scrolling, no distractions, just breathing, reflecting, planning. Or sitting quietly with a task, free from interruptions. These aren't luxuries. They are the tools of mastery. The rituals that protect your energy and sharpen your focus. Because without solitude, your mind is a battlefield. Constantly pulled by impulses, notifications, and expectations. But with solitude, it becomes a fortress. The difference is profound. Solitude anchors you. It reminds you who you are, what you stand for, and why you started. It fuels discipline that is consistent, sustainable, and aligned. And here's the key. Discipline anchored in solitude doesn't rely on motivation. It doesn't need external rewards. It becomes an internal rhythm, a quiet force that keeps you moving. This principle naturally leads us to our next truth. Detaching from praise and external validation. Because when your discipline lives in solitude, it's unshakable, no matter who's watching or applauding. You learn to find satisfaction in the work itself, not the reaction it gets. You build a foundation so solid, the noise outside can't shake it. So as we move forward, prepare to explore how to let go of dependence on praise and external approval. How to cultivate a mindset where your worth and drive come from within, rooted in solitude and integrity. For now, reflect. Are you anchoring your discipline in solitude or in the noise around you? Are you willing to show up when no one's watching? Are you ready to build your inner fortress, brick by brick, in silence? Because that's where true power begins. In the last principle, we talked about anchoring your discipline in solitude, finding your strength in the quiet, unseen moments where true commitment lives. Now, let's take that foundation a step further. Principle 7, detach from praise. This is a tough one, especially in today's world where likes, shares, and followers feel like currency. Praise is addictive. It feels good. It validates our effort, our worth, our identity. We all crave it. But here's the problem. When your motivation depends on praise, your power becomes fragile. Your discipline hinges on applause. And applause? It's unpredictable. It can vanish in an instant. Think about it. How many times have you felt unstoppable when someone praised you, only to feel lost or discouraged when that praise disappeared? How many times have you pushed yourself harder just to hear "good job" or see the notifications light up? That's the dopamine of validation in action. It's the brain's quick reward system, a short circuit that can hijack your true motivation. The Stoics warned us about this. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that fame is empty noise, that the only thing that matters is doing what is right, whether or not anyone notices. Because praise, while pleasant, is unstable. It depends on moods, trends, and opinions. One day you're admired, the next forgotten. If your energy rises and falls with applause, you're no longer in control. You're at the mercy of the crowd. Your consistency becomes a performance for others, not a commitment to yourself. This is the trap of seeking external validation. It makes you reactive, not proactive. It trains you to look outside for worth instead of cultivating it within. But here's the truth that changes everything. Your worth is not found in being seen. It's found in being consistent when unseen. When no one applauds, no one notices, no one cares. Are you still showing up? Are you still doing the work? Are you still moving forward? That is where real strength lives. Let's be honest. Social media has blurred the lines between progress and performance. We post before we've perfected. We seek validation before we've earned mastery. We measure success by the number of eyes watching, not by the depth of our growth. But true transformation isn't a highlight reel. It's the quiet, repetitive actions done without fanfare. It's the discipline to keep going when no one's watching. The strongest people you know, they didn't get there because they chased praise. They got there because they kept showing up, quietly, relentlessly. They found joy in the work itself, not the applause it might bring. So how do you detach from praise? How do you build a mindset where external approval no longer dictates your effort? First, recognize when you're chasing applause. Notice the moments you feel energized only because someone acknowledged you. Be honest with yourself. Is your consistency tied to recognition or to your values? Second, practice grounding your motivation internally. Find satisfaction in the process, the small wins, the growth, even if it's invisible to others. Celebrate the private victories. The day you resisted a bad habit. The hour you stayed focused despite distractions. The morning you got up when it was hard. Third, learn to receive praise without needing it. Say thank you and return to your work. Don't let compliments become the fuel that keeps your engine running. Instead, let your work fuel itself. Build a self-sustaining fire inside you. And fourth, embrace the discomfort of being unseen. The silence can feel isolating at first. But that silence is freedom. Freedom from judgment, expectation, and pressure. It's the space where you build discipline that lasts. Because discipline rooted in praise is fragile. Discipline rooted in solitude and self-respect is unbreakable. When you detach from praise, you stop performing. You stop chasing approval. You stop living for others' expectations. And instead, you start living for your own alignment, your own growth, your own truth. This shift is powerful. It quiets the noise. It strengthens your focus. It frees you to become who you truly are, without filters, masks, or scripts. And here's the exciting part. Detaching from praise sets the stage for mastering your emotions. Because when your motivation is no longer tied to external highs and lows, you gain emotional stability. You no longer ride the roller coaster of approval and rejection. You develop resilience. You respond thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively. This naturally leads us to the next principle. Master your emotions before they master you. Because discipline isn't just about actions. It's about managing the internal landscape where those actions arise. Are your emotions guiding you or controlling you? In the next section, we'll explore how to feel deeply without being ruled by feeling. How to turn emotional energy into focused power. But for now, ask yourself, am I seeking applause or alignment? Am I showing up because I want to be seen or because I owe it to myself? What would happen if I kept going even when no one clapped? Detach from praise. Own your discipline. And watch as your inner power becomes truly unstoppable. We just explored the power of detaching from praise, learning to break free from the need for external approval, and instead rooting your motivation deep within yourself. That shift is critical because it liberates you from performance and places you firmly in alignment with your values. But now, how do you show the world your true strength without shouting or seeking applause? That brings us to Principle 8. Let results be your voice. In a world obsessed with noise, likes, shares, self-promotion, it's tempting to broadcast every step, every success, every minor achievement. We want instant validation. We want recognition now. But the Stoics teach us that the loudest voice, the most undeniable proof of your discipline and growth, isn't found in words or posts. It's found in results. Tangible, consistent, silent results. Think about it for a moment. Who commands more respect? A person who talks about their goals endlessly but rarely follows through, or the one who quietly works, delivers, and lets their success speak for itself? The answer is clear. Results don't lie. They don't exaggerate. They don't need hashtags or captions. They are the ultimate language of discipline. Marcus Aurelius didn't document his virtues to impress others. He lived them. He embodied them. His legacy isn't built on public declarations but on the quiet, steady consistency of his actions. When you let your results be your voice, you stop leaking energy into explanations, justifications, and performances. Instead, your energy goes where it truly matters, into building, creating, growing. But this principle is not about hiding behind silence as an excuse for inaction. It's about focusing your effort where it counts and trusting the process. It's about understanding that transformation is a journey, not a moment. And every step you take, however small, is a brick in the foundation of your future. Imagine a builder constructing a house. She doesn't announce every brick laid. She doesn't seek applause for every nail hammered. She works diligently, day by day, brick by brick, and eventually a strong, lasting structure stands where there was once an empty lot. Your life is the same. Your habits, your choices, your persistence, all accumulate into results. The kind of results that speak so clearly, so powerfully, that they leave no room for doubt. Now, here's the catch. Results don't always come fast. They don't always come visible. That's why this principle requires patience, steadfast patience. It requires the discipline to keep going when progress feels invisible, when no one notices, when the world is silent. Because what grows in silence grows strong. Too often, we expect overnight success. We want immediate feedback. We want others to recognize our effort before it has fully matured. But results that matter are rarely flashy. They are built through consistency, through resilience, through the daily grind. That's why your commitment must be for yourself, not for the spotlight. You must fall in love with the process, not the applause. Let me ask you this. What would happen if you stopped posting every milestone? If you stopped broadcasting every idea before it was ready? If you stopped explaining your progress and simply showed up every day to do the work? You'd free up so much energy. You'd build momentum that no outside force could derail. You'd create results so undeniable that the noise around you would fade away. People would notice, not because you told them, but because your work demanded it. And here's a powerful truth. When your results speak, your presence changes. You walk differently. You carry yourself with quiet confidence, not arrogance. Your actions gain weight. Your influence grows, not from marketing or self-promotion, but from authentic impact. So, how do you let your results be your voice? Start by focusing on consistency. Forget perfection. Forget immediate validation. Show up daily. Do the work, even when it's uncomfortable. Even when it's boring. Even when the world seems indifferent. Measure progress by your commitment, not by external recognition. Second, practice patience. Understand that meaningful results take time. They require slow, steady effort. They require weathering setbacks and maintaining faith in your path. Third, resist the urge to explain or justify. Trust that your actions will communicate more powerfully than words ever could. Avoid the temptation to overshare or to seek permission. Fourth, cultivate humility. Recognize that true mastery is a lifelong process. It's about continual growth, not one-time achievements. Celebrate progress quietly, and prepare to build even more. And finally, remember this. Results are not just about outcomes. They are about alignment. When your actions reflect your values consistently, your results become an extension of who you are. They become your unspoken statement, your living testimony. This principle naturally leads us to the next. Master your emotions before they master you. Because the discipline to let results speak requires emotional resilience. It requires the ability to stay steady amid doubt, criticism, or silence. It's about not allowing frustration or impatience to hijack your focus. So get ready. Next, we'll explore how to own your emotions and turn them into allies on your journey, not enemies. But for now, reflect on this. Are you letting your results speak louder than your words? Are you building quietly, patiently, with faith? Or are you caught in the noise, trying to prove your progress before it's ready? Let your results be your voice. Build the kind of power that doesn't need an audience to exist. Because when you do, you'll discover a strength that's unshakable, undeniable, and truly yours. We've just uncovered the power of letting your results speak for themselves, building quietly, patiently, with unwavering faith. But there's a deeper layer beneath that discipline, one that often trips up even the strongest among us. That layer is emotion. Principle 9 is simple but profound. Master your emotions before they master you. Imagine your mind as a kingdom, a domain you govern. Now picture emotions as visitors, sometimes calm guests, sometimes unruly intruders. Anger storms in, pride slips through the cracks, anxiety lurks in the shadows. Left unchecked, these emotions don't just visit, they take over. They seize the throne, hijack your decisions, and steer you away from the path you've committed to. The Stoics didn't deny emotions, they felt deeply just like you and me. But they refused to be ruled by them. Their discipline wasn't about suppressing feelings. It was about commanding them. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic teachers, reminded us that it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. That moment, the space between stimulus and response, is where your true freedom lies. Because emotions, in themselves, are not your enemy. It's the lack of control over them that becomes dangerous. When anger controls you, destruction follows. When fear controls you, paralysis takes hold. When desire controls you, distraction rules. And those moments when your intentions die at the hands of unchecked feelings? You're not weak, you're just missing a strategy. So how do you master your emotions? First, feel everything, obey nothing. Don't run from anger or anxiety or sadness. Let them rise. Observe them. Study them. But don't give them the keys to your actions. Feel the heat of the fire, but don't let it burn your future down. This requires awareness. When you feel triggered, pause. Breathe. Ask yourself, what part of me is threatened right now? My ego or my essence? More often than you think, your emotional reactions are just unexamined fears dressed as truths. From there, redirect, not with force, but with discipline. Turn anger into clarity. Turn fear into preparation. Turn sadness into depth. This transformation isn't magic. It's practice. In your daily life, this means journaling when your mind feels cloudy, moving your body when emotions get trapped, speaking less when feelings roar, and cultivating rituals that ground you. Morning routines, quiet walks, moments of stillness after conflict, these aren't luxuries. They're shields and anchors. Because once emotions master you, they define your life. But once you master them, you define yourself. Think about it. Which emotion tends to control you the most? What would it look like to feel it fully without feeding it? The Stoics didn't aim to become numb robots. They aimed to be steady captains, steering their ship with awareness and patience. The goal isn't to escape emotions. It's to hold the wheel, no matter who tries to grab it. This principle links closely to what we discussed earlier about detaching from praise and letting your work speak. If you let emotions dictate your drive, you'll become reactive, inconsistent, and vulnerable to the highs and lows of approval and criticism. But mastering your emotions allows you to stay steady, focused, and true to your mission, regardless of external chaos or internal storms. Now, this is no easy feat. In today's fast-paced world, emotional hijacking happens daily. A harsh comment triggers anger. A missed goal ignites frustration. A sudden change sparks anxiety. But here's the good news, you're not powerless. Emotional mastery is a skill. And like any skill, it grows with intention and practice. Start by simply noticing your emotional patterns. When does anger flare up? What triggers your anxiety? How do these feelings affect your decisions? Then choose one small change, maybe a pause before reacting, maybe a deep breath in moments of tension. Little by little, these choices build emotional resilience. And emotional resilience is the foundation for sustainable discipline. Because true discipline isn't just about showing up when you feel good. It's about showing up even when your emotions scream otherwise. It's about not letting fear, anger, or doubt pull you off course. It's about becoming the steady force in your own life. Mastering your emotions also empowers you to break destructive cycles. Maybe you've reacted with pride when humility was needed. Maybe you've avoided challenges out of fear. Recognizing those patterns allows you to rewrite them. And that's freedom. So, as you continue on this journey, remember, discipline is not just external structure. It's internal mastery. It's governing your mind and heart so they work in harmony. And this harmony propels you forward. Now, as we prepare to explore Principle 10, no complaints, only adjustments, you'll see how mastering your emotions leads naturally into embracing challenges as invitations to grow, rather than reasons to complain. But before we get there, take a moment. Reflect on your emotional landscape. Where are you still reactive? Where can you cultivate presence? Because every step toward emotional mastery is a step toward true power. We've just uncovered the essential art of mastering your emotions, feeling deeply but responding deliberately. That control is the bedrock of inner strength. But controlling your emotions is only part of the equation. How you face life's challenges, setbacks, and frustrations is what shapes your growth. Welcome to Principle 10, no complaints, only adjustments. At first glance, this might sound harsh or rigid, but it's actually the antidote to one of the biggest energy drains we face, complaining. Complaints feel familiar. They're seductive. They give us a fleeting sense of power. We vent about what's unfair, what's wrong, what's frustrating. Traffic, bad bosses, missed opportunities, annoying people, we all do it. But here's the truth. Complaining is not strength. It's energy lost. When you complain, nothing changes. You don't get stronger. You don't get clearer. You just stay stuck in frustration. The Stoics understood this deeply. Seneca wrote, "A man is as unhappy as he has convinced himself he is." Most complaints aren't about reality itself. They're about your choice to focus on what's wrong instead of what can be done. To live like a Stoic means to flip the script, to replace complaints with adjustments. Something's not working? That's not a signal to moan endlessly. It's data. It's information. It's your invitation to course correct. Life throws curveballs, no doubt. Challenges, failures, disappointments, they're part of the game. But your response? That's where your power lies. When you stop complaining and start adjusting, you take back control. You move from victim to architect. You shift from stuck to forward momentum. This doesn't mean ignoring hardship or pretending everything's perfect. It means facing reality clearly, without emotional fog or victimhood. Expressing frustration is human and sometimes necessary. Venting can relieve pressure. But living in a constant state of complaint, that's spiritual erosion. It trains your mind to look for problems instead of solutions. It makes you passive instead of active. It traps you in a cycle where energy is spent whining instead of building. Think about how many minutes, hours, even days, you've wasted on unproductive complaining. Complaining about the weather, your job, social media algorithms, politics, none of that moves your life forward. On the other hand, think about someone you admire. Someone who seems calm under pressure. Purposeful. Focused. It's not because their life is perfect. It's because they've learned there's no power in moaning. There's only power in movement. The mindset of no complaints, only adjustments is a muscle. It must be exercised consistently. Start small. The next time you catch yourself complaining, pause. Take a breath. Ask, what's one small adjustment I can make right now? Maybe it's changing your attitude about a task you don't like. Maybe it's setting a boundary with someone draining your energy. Maybe it's dedicating 10 minutes to solve a problem instead of whining about it. Then do it. Over and over. Every time you turn complaint into action, you build resilience. You reclaim your power. You signal to your brain that you're the captain, not the victim. This shift is more than personal, it's revolutionary. Because when you complain less and adjust faster, you keep your momentum. You don't stall. You don't burn out. You don't surrender to frustration. Instead, you flow with life's inevitable ups and downs. You learn to welcome resistance as training ground for growth, not as a roadblock. The Stoics didn't say life would be easy. They said life would test you, and your job is to pass those tests with clarity and grace. Now, how does this principle connect with what we talked about before, mastering your emotions? Complaining is often an emotional reaction. It's anger, disappointment, or fear expressed outwardly. If you've mastered your emotions, you see complaints for what they are, unproductive reactions, energy leaks. And with emotional mastery, you have the awareness and control to pivot toward adjustments instead. The two principles are intertwined. Master your emotions, and complaints naturally fall away. Replace them with purposeful adjustments. Before we move on to Principle 11, own only what you can control, consider this. Complaints are often about things outside your control, traffic jams, other people's decisions, the economy. Adjustments, on the other hand, focus on what you can influence, your mindset, your actions, your responses. This is a powerful shift from powerlessness to ownership. So as you go about your day, ask yourself, where am I complaining instead of adjusting? What small change can I make right now to move forward? How can I train myself to respond with action rather than frustration? Remember, discipline isn't about perfection or always getting it right. It's about commitment to growth. It's about choosing movement over stagnation, even when life isn't fair. That's how you build unstoppable momentum. That's how you grow silent, unshakable inner power. Stay with me as we explore how to own only what's truly yours, because in doing so, you clear the path for freedom, clarity, and true peace. We've learned to move from complaints to adjustments. shifting our energy from frustration to purposeful action. That's a massive step toward true inner power. But now, it's time to take the next crucial step. Welcome to Principle 11. Own only what you can control. This principle is a cornerstone of Stoic wisdom. It's simple, yet profoundly liberating. Because so often, we carry a weight that isn't ours to bear. We worry about other people's opinions, the economy, the weather, the past, the future, things completely outside of our control. We fret about conversations we had, decisions others made, outcomes we can't change. And all this wasted energy drags us down, clouds our judgment, and steals our peace. But here's the truth the Stoics teach. Your power lies in mastering what you can control. That's your thoughts, your words, your choices, your actions, your attitudes. Everything else? It's noise. It's outside your domain. Epictetus said it plainly. Some things are up to us and some things are not. That simple idea is a gateway to freedom, if you dare to live it. Imagine how much of your stress comes from things beyond your reach. Maybe it's a delay at work. Maybe it's a harsh critique you can't undo. Maybe it's a rejection, a loss, or someone else's bad behavior. How often do you react as if your reaction will fix it? How often do you carry that burden, as if bearing it will change anything? The reality is it doesn't. It just clouds your mind and drains your energy. And it pulls you away from the one place where your power truly lives, your response. Living as a Stoic means constantly asking yourself, is this mine to hold? If the answer is yes, then own it fully. No excuses. No blame. No deflection. Full accountability. If the answer is no, release it. Not because it doesn't matter, but because it's not yours to carry. It's like picking up someone else's luggage on a journey that's already heavy enough. You don't have to carry their load. Let it go. This mindset is radical because it simplifies your life. It clears mental clutter. It prevents you from becoming a prisoner to other people's moods, choices, or circumstances. You stop reacting to everything. Instead, you choose how to show up, how to move forward, how to lead yourself. And that, right there, is what real freedom is. Not controlling the world around you, but refusing to let the world control you. Ask yourself right now, what am I carrying that doesn't belong to me? Imagine how much lighter your day would feel if you focused only on what's in your hands and let the rest fade into the background. Because freedom isn't about gaining control over everything. It's about stopping the need to control what you never could. It's about fully owning the domain where your power is real, your mind, your will, your actions. Imagine facing a difficult conversation with this mindset. Instead of worrying about how the other person will react or what others will think, you focus on your words, your calmness, your integrity. You can't control their response, but you own how you show up. Imagine dealing with a setback at work. You can't control the market, the decisions of your boss, or the timing. But you can control your preparation, your effort, your mindset. That ownership turns overwhelm into clarity, chaos into calm. Because when you let go of what you can't control, you clear mental space for what you can. This principle also links deeply with what we covered before, moving from complaints to adjustments. You can't adjust what isn't yours. Complaining about the uncontrollable is wasted energy. But owning your part, your choices, that's where change begins. The Stoics taught that peace is only found when you draw this line clearly and live by it. That's the path to resilience, to unwavering focus, to inner freedom that no external chaos can shake. Now, how does this principle prepare you for the final step we're about to explore? When you own only what you can control, you stop performing for an audience and start living for your own truth. You stop worrying about who's watching and instead focus on who you're becoming. This leads directly into Principle 12. Live like no one is watching. A call to shed the shackles of external validation and step fully into authentic, fearless living. So before we move there, reflect on this. Are you carrying burdens that belong to others? Are you reacting to noise you don't have to tune into? What would your life look like if you released those weights today? Remember, owning your domain means radical simplicity. It means saying no to distractions and yes to yourself. It means living with clarity, purpose, and most importantly, freedom. So take a deep breath. Begin to practice this now, and prepare to embrace the final, powerful truth in Principle 12. We've journeyed through powerful ideas, owning only what you can control, letting go of burdens that aren't yours, focusing your energy where it truly matters. Now we arrive at the final principle, live like no one is watching. This isn't about recklessness or abandoning responsibility. It's about reclaiming your freedom from the invisible chains of judgment, fear, and performance. Most of us live as if the world has a spotlight trained on us, as if every move, every choice, every mistake is magnified for all to see and judge. This imagined audience shapes our behavior more than we realize. We censor ourselves. We hide parts of who we really are. We pause before taking action, fearing what others might think. We wear masks, adjusting to fit in, to avoid conflict, or to gain approval. But here's the quiet truth that the Stoics understood deeply. No one is really watching. Most people are consumed with their own worries, insecurities, and stories. They're far too focused on themselves to scrutinize yours. Imagine that freedom, the weight lifted when you realize you are not constantly under surveillance. That realization alone can transform how you live. When you accept that no one's watching, you stop performing. You stop living to be understood or admired. You start living for you, for your own integrity, your own values, your own purpose. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "Be indifferent to what makes no difference." The fleeting opinions, the passing approval, the judgments that don't affect your soul, these are distractions, nothing more. When you live as if no one is watching, you step into authenticity. You act not for applause, but because it's right. You keep your promises to yourself, even when no one checks in. You show up fully, not for a crowd, but because your own standards demand it. This is freedom in its purest form. It's integrity without audience. Peace without permission. Movement without marketing. It means doing the hard things, the right things, simply because they matter, not because they look good. This principle challenges you to look honestly at your own motivations. Are you acting out of fear of judgment or out of commitment to your truth? Are your choices shaped by the need to be seen or by the need to be aligned? Living like no one is watching doesn't mean being careless. It means being courageous. It means choosing discipline even when there's no applause. Choosing growth even when no one notices. Choosing kindness even when it goes unseen. And in doing so, you build a foundation of unshakable inner power. Because when your motivation comes from within, from your own sense of purpose, nothing outside can shake you. You become resilient to criticism, immune to distraction, and freed from the exhausting cycle of approval seeking. Imagine your life if you no longer hesitated because of imagined eyes on you. If you pursued your goals relentlessly without caring who noticed. If you spoke your truth openly without fear of judgment. If you lived fully, imperfectly, boldly. That's the promise of this principle. It's the secret to quiet confidence, the path to steady progress, and the way to become someone who doesn't just survive in a noisy world, but thrives in it. This doesn't mean you isolate yourself or reject connection. You still build relationships. You still engage with community. But you do it from a place of strength, not need. You give without expecting anything in return. You act with integrity, regardless of who is watching. You find joy in the work itself, not in the spotlight it might bring. Letting go of the need to perform for others opens the door to self-mastery. You no longer burn energy trying to control perceptions or prove your worth. Instead, you direct that energy inward, toward growth, focus, and meaning. As you practice this principle, notice how your stress decreases, your clarity increases, and your confidence grows. You begin to embody the freedom the Stoics admired. And as your inner power strengthens, the external noise fades. You don't need to shout to be heard. You don't need to explain to be understood. You simply are. This principle also ties back beautifully to everything we've covered so far. From embracing silence, speaking less and doing more, to owning your domain and mastering your emotions. All these steps prepare you to live fully, unapologetically, as your true self. And that's the essence of Stoic power. It's not flashy. It's not loud. It's steady. It's silent. It's real. Before we wrap up, take a moment to ask yourself, what would I do differently if I truly believed no one was watching? What steps would I take if I weren't afraid of judgment? How much energy could I reclaim if I stopped performing and started living? Your answers are the gateway to freedom. To living a life that's not dictated by others, but designed by you. To walking a path where authenticity is your guide and integrity is your compass. So embrace this truth. Live like no one is watching. Not because they aren't, but because it no longer matters. Because when you do, you step into a power that's unbreakable. A power that rises quietly but moves mountains. And that, my friend, is the Stoic way. As we come to the end of this journey through the 12 Stoic principles, take a moment to let it all sink in. These are not just abstract ideas or ancient philosophies locked away in dusty books. No, these principles are powerful tools. Tools for building silent, unstoppable strength inside yourself. You've learned how to let silence be your foundation, how to speak less and do more, how to water your seeds quietly without exposing them too early. You've heard why resisting the dopamine rush from external validation is critical, and why your work should never be a performance for applause, but a deep, personal commitment to growth. You've been invited to anchor your discipline in solitude, to detach from praise, and to let your results speak louder than words. You've explored mastering your emotions, replacing complaints with adjustments, and owning only what you truly can control. Finally, you've been reminded to live like no one's watching, because in truth, they aren't, freeing you to act with authenticity and courage. But here's the truth that binds it all together. None of this will transform you unless you live it. Knowledge is nothing without action. Wisdom without practice is just noise. The Stoics didn't preach for applause. They lived quietly, intensely, with unwavering commitment to their principles, even when the world was silent, indifferent, or hostile. They built their strength in the shadows so that when the spotlight hit, they were already unshakable. And this is your challenge now, to embrace that same silent power, to stop waiting for motivation, external validation, or the right moment, to stop performing for others and start being true to yourself, to build a life so aligned with your deepest values that no distraction or doubt can pull you off course. Imagine how different your days would look if you woke up every morning anchored by these principles, no longer caught in the endless cycle of social media, noise, and comparison. Instead, focused, present, and moving steadily towards your version of success. Picture yourself acting with quiet confidence, holding boundaries firmly yet gently, responding to life with clarity rather than reaction, and trusting yourself enough to keep going even when no one's watching. This is freedom. This is power. And it's within your reach. But change doesn't happen overnight. Transformation is a process, often uncomfortable, sometimes lonely, but always worth it. So start small. Pick one principle that resonates with you. Maybe it's choosing silence over noise, or practicing discipline in solitude. Maybe it's learning to master your emotions, or owning only what you can control. Commit to it for a day, then a week, then a month. Give yourself grace when you stumble. Celebrate the small wins, because every step forward is a brick laid in the temple of your life. And here's the secret. You don't have to do this alone. If this message has stirred something inside you, if you're ready to walk this path of inner strength and clarity, then share it. Tell a friend. Post it, message it, talk about it. Let's build a community of quiet warriors, people who choose presence over performance, substance over spectacle. Your growth matters, not just for you, but for those around you. If you found value here, please hit that like button and subscribe. Your support helps bring this message to others who need it as much as you do. And don't be shy, drop a comment below. Which principle spoke to you the most? What's one step you're going to take today to embody it? Your voice could inspire someone else to start their journey. Remember, real power isn't flashy or loud. It doesn't crave attention or applause. It grows quietly, rooted deep within. It's the kind of power that moves mountains without announcing it, that withstands storms without faltering, that shines not to be seen, but because it simply is. This is the Stoic way, the way to true freedom. Thank you for investing your time and energy here. Keep building your inner fortress. Keep showing up for yourself, even when it's hard, even when it's unseen. Because when you do, you become unshakable. You become unstoppable. And the world can't help but take notice.